All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Saints Happy Hour podcast for Thursday. This one is free again, Andrew, because we are going free every day until week one of the football season to entice you people to sign up at the $10 level so they can get your grades, they can get a koozie, they can get a magnet, they can get the screensaver, they get everything. It's awesome, and they sign up and do it so they can have full, awesome Saints coverage all year for just $10 a month.
Yeah, I agree. I think you should do it. I mean, think about it seriously. Free wallpaper, which is I think the design is amazing. I actually have it on my phone and my computer. But the koozie is awesome. I love that. The magnet's cool, and but obviously the main thing with paying $10 is you get the grades, and you'll get 3 months worth of. If you're the kind of fan that likes to analyze individual players' performance and really dive into how these guys are doing over the course of the season, and you geek out and nerd out on that stuff a little bit, this is for you. So, like, if you're into analyzing players' performance, being like, man, I feel like this guy's really down with his performance this year, he's not as good as last year, or I feel like the Saints really need to upgrade at this position, and you want to take a deep dive into that stuff, this has the kind of analytics. And if you like Pro Football Focus, if you like any of those products, this is way more detailed, way more of a look under the hood. I'm transparent about all my grades. I explain exactly why each player is graded a certain way. So there's an enormous amount of detail in there, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So that's only $10 a month.
Yeah, and we have many tiers. You can do the $3.28 tier, wink, wink. Atlanta lost the Super Bowl. They lost a 25-point lead. That's our wink to that. They have the $3.28 tier. They have the $5 tier, the $7 tier, the $10 tier. They all get cool perks and stuff. So go to our.
And then $12 is the T-shirt, right?
That's $12. $12 in the T-shirt. Or if you're filthy fucking rich and have just money that you want to set on fire, you can donate $150 a month, and I will talk to you for 30 minutes every week during the Saints season. Just so you know. So sign up for what you can. It's great. You want to be on the pot. You want to be plugged in all year long. So Andrew, today the Saints signed a linebacker from Washington and Tennessee that I've never heard of. But you told me today that you think it's good news because it gave you a feeling that maybe Craig Robertson is going to be okay. Please explain yourself.
Well, usually by now, and of course this is a podcast tradition, every time we say something on the podcast, we immediately get naysayed by the Saints. So I expect news to hit that Craig Robertson is on IR roughly within 30 seconds of you people listening to this podcast. But, I think the fact that they cut the long snapper, the backup long snapper, Nick Moore, who has been kind of bad in preseason. He hasn't had a huge screw-up, but he's had a couple really bad locations.
No, it's a huge – for the standards of NFL long snappers that teams have put in, he's a disaster. Like, that gets you caught. Like, that's not even close to being good enough. Like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, like that might have been good enough to be okay and be a long snapper. Not anymore. Like for a long snapper, you have to be perfect. 99.5 times out of 100. And if you're bad more than one time out of 100, they're bringing people in.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. But so I think the fact that they cut him and they put Chris Clark on IR, which, we saw the air cast come out for him, so it's pretty obvious that this is something serious for him. But the fact that they cut a player that wasn't injured and that he was just cut because they felt like he wasn't good enough and they had that position resolved, that tells me that they didn't have to cut. I just feel like news would have leaked by now. If he was out for the year, I feel like he would have maybe even been IR'd and they wouldn't have cut a player that was healthy. So I just feel like the fact that they created some roster space to sign these two guys and Craig Robertson wasn't part of those transactions, to me says it may not be as bad as we fear now. He may still be out for 8 weeks. He may maybe be out longer. But that at least tells me there's a chance that we will see him at some point this season.
Yeah, but I mean, if he heard something pop and it wasn't as bad as he feared, but he's still out 4 to 6 weeks. You put him at 5 weeks, that still means he misses almost all of September, right? So you still need a linebacker. So that becomes tricky because he's not long enough to IR him, because that pushes out 8 weeks. But you still need a body. You got to make him inactive, so it gets dicey. So they have to bring people in. But I agree with you. I think it's good news. I mean, the Saints, they can keep a lid on stuff more so than most teams. They do a really great job of that. But if Deuce could have got the information that he heard something pop, I guarantee if Craig Robertson was IR'd, there's a 99% chance that Schefter or Diana Rossini or somebody would have. Or Rapshi, they'd have got it. I mean, that's just how it goes. So that was the only Saints news today. But the more important thing about the Saints today is on Saints Twitter, we were arguing with people and fighting with people over the biggest Saints killers of all time. And people were arguing, the old school people were arguing Joe Montana, and I threw out the name Mike Lansford, if you're old school Saints, and he kept the Saints out of the playoffs in '83. He beat them on a Sunday night in overtime. He has about 4 game-winning kicks against the Saints when he played with the Rams, so he was on the list. But you came in like Vince fucking McMahon on Monday Night Raw, and just blew people away and were throwing tables around. You crushed everyone when you announced who the all-time Saints killer was. It made people mad and angry, but then you dropped the stats, and there was no more arguing with you. So, Andrew, tell the people who the greatest Saints killer of all time is.
So, in my head, I always had Joey Galloway. I just remember going multiple years being like, when is this guy going to retire? My God, he's 37 years old and he's still roasting us.
He was murdered.
Every year at the beginning of the year, has Joey Galloway retired yet? Do we have to play him again? But I mean, Joey Galloway, and the thing about Galloway is it's easy to say a guy like Montana. You talked about this on Twitter where if you're a Hall of Famer and you're winning Super Bowls, you're roasting everyone. It's not like this. It's not like special to the Saints. That Joe Montana was tearing every team up that he was playing. So that to me, calling Joe Montana a Saints killer is kind of a cop out.
Jerry Rice killed the Saints. No shit.
Yeah, it's like saying Tom Brady killed some team. It's like, well, he kind of killed everyone that he ever played. So, but Galloway to me is more unique and more interesting. It's not that he wasn't a great receiver. He was, but for whatever reason, the Saints just seem to bring out it was the opposite of kryptonite. The Saints to Joey Galloway, he was like Clark Kent most of the time, but then whenever he played the Saints, he became Superman. It was the opposite.
Drop the stats on him and and I'm going to tell people, when Joey Galloway did what Andrew's about to tell you that he did, this is when he was 33, 34, and 35. Andrew dropped the stats that he did.
So he came to the Bucs as an old man, and at 33 years old, and I remember when they signed him, I was like, oh, he's washed, whatever. But here's the crazy thing, Ralph. I came out of the gates, like you said, like Vincent McMahon, flipping tables over. I was outraged. Any list that doesn't have Joey Galloway number 1 is invalid. Period. The end. I kind of came in strong, which I tend to do sometimes on Twitter. And then
it's the only way to do it on Twitter.
It really is. And I started to wonder, is this a kind of a figment of my imagination? Am I overplaying this? Do I fantasize about that? Do I remember him killing the Saints maybe a little bit more than he actually did? Am I exaggerating this? So all those thoughts were going through my head. So I was like, I better go check the stats and make sure, I'm not just throwing this out frivolously, and he actually was a Saints killer.
And so
I start to look at the stats. He joined the league in '95, and I'm watching and I'm going year by year, and he didn't play with the Bucs until 2004. So he would play the Saints maybe every 3 years when he was with the Seahawks and the Cowboys. There weren't a lot of games, and he didn't have a lot of big time performances. So I'm I was kind of way off with this. But then you get to 2004 when he was 33 and he joined the Bucs. And Ralph, at first, this is the crazy thing. He went on a 6-game stretch where he had 9 receiving touchdowns in 6 games. And I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of touchdowns. Ralph, I missed the touchdown that he ran back on a punt. I didn't even see that because I was looking at his receiving stats, and it wasn't until later that I discovered that he also ran back a punt against the Saints during the stretch. So it was actually 10 touchdowns in 6 games. Like, I don't know that any player has ever scored 10 touchdowns.
And one of those games was 157 yards in receiving.
Yeah, well. So here's the catch. So he had a 6-game stretch against the Saints where he scored 10 touchdowns. On the 7th game, he rested, and he did not score touchdowns. So it was a terrible performance where he only had 0 touchdowns but 7 catches and 158 yards. Like, that was a bad game for Joey Galloway when he wasn't getting in the end zone, and he was pouring 158 yards receiving.
I mean, I thought, Greg Olsen killed the Saints, and Greg Olsen has a ton of monster games, including the playoff game in 2017, and Greg Olsen's individual games don't even touch Joey Galloway. Like, Joey Galloway, it was mind-blowing. I was like, God, I remembered it too, and I remembered him torching the Saints, and when you said, oh, he's got to be on the list, I was like, yeah, that's obvious. But looking at the numbers, like, that's ridiculous.
Like, you got to get to a point where I guess it was Hazlitt at the time. Like, I just know Sean Payton, and I've heard him, like, snippets of him on the sidelines. And you remember the infamous Super Bowl when they were going up against the Colts, and he's screaming at Joe Vick because Dallas Clark is tearing on him, and he keeps shouting, "We cannot let their best player beat us. It's a cardinal sin." Like, you can just hear him say, like, I don't care if we lose. We're not going to lose by Dallas Clark roasting us. And I just know, like, Sean Payton would have gotten to a point with Joey Galloway where he would have been like, I don't care.
Bracket that old man.
Pour 4 fucking dudes on that guy. I don't care if they throw for 500 yards on us. Joey Galloway is not catching a touchdown today.
So bad. And people are trying to argue with you, and I'm like, man, this is what if you argue that Joey Galloway isn't the number 1 Saints all-time killer, you're basically arguing that the Earth is flat. Now, it's America, and you can make that argument, and you can believe that argument. You have the right to be wrong, but that's what you are. You're wrong.
I mean, I don't know if anyone remembers what Deshaun Jackson and Ryan Fitzpatrick did to the Saints in Week 1. This past season together, but Joey Galloway, like, imagine that happening 7 games in a row. That's what Joey Galloway did.
That's what he did.
I'm serious.
It's just we laugh about it now because the Saints are good, but my God, the Venturi defense were just awful. So this podcast is free because of MyBookie. Guys, it's NFL season. The Raiders have a B. You're probably watching Hard Knocks. Look, MyBookie, they have the best online betting app. It's safe. It's secure. You can do in-game betting. You can even bet fantasy players' point totals over, under if you want. And right now, MyBookie, to celebrate the start of football season, Andrew, they are giving you 100% sign-up bonus match. That's right. You put in 100, they give you 100 to gamble with. You put in 1,000, they give you 1,000. Just use the code ARMCHAIR, and you get 100% sign-up bonus. Go to mybookie.ag. That's mybookie.ag. Use the code ARMCHAIR. Get 100% sign-up bonus. Do it today. It's great. They are a great sponsor. They've helped us make this podcast free for you guys. But also, go and sign up for the daily podcast. It's amazing. Sign up for the tier that you can, at least $7. If you do $7, you get the podcast every day. If you do $10, you get the everyday podcast plus Andrew's grades. And we set up the Patreon site where the tags are easier to find. So you'll be able to find Andrew's grades really easy all year long. You'll be able to find all the training camp podcasts we do. So it's really set up really easy to use. So, guys, this has been our Thursday podcast. It's free.
Oh, I got breaking news, Ralph.
What is that?
Joey Galloway just scored again.
I hate you, Andrew. So, for Andrew, I'm Ralph. We will see you again tomorrow.